My name is Jonathan Williams. Now, not a lot of you know me, and that's okay because I'm not rich, I'm not powerful, and I'm not well connected. I'm just a regular guy. I live in a small house in a family neighborhood with my wife and my 2-year-old daughter. I feed my own dog and I mow my own grass. In addition to being a father and husband, I'm a small business owner, a former United States Marine, and a man who cares deeply about his country. We are here today not as Republicans or Democrats, not as rich or poor, not as black or white, young or old, religious or secular. We are here today as Americans. We are here today as Americans who can no longer afford to remain silent about the direction our country is going in. We are here not to protest against any one individual or group of individuals, but against an idea. We are protesting against the notion that if we somehow, some way, just tax enough, just spend enough, just borrow enough, and just grow more government large enough, that somehow, some way, we can tax, spend, and borrow our way into prosperity. Now, this philosophy is nothing new. From time to time throughout our history, the practitioners of big government and centralized planning have risen to power and have, often with good intentions, gathered more and more power onto the federal government at the expense of the states and at the expense of our individual liberty. And sometimes we as citizens, who are often too busy with our day-to-day lives, are lulled to sleep with the sweet song of security and convenience. Well, we're awake now. When the practitioners of big government want to take more of your liberty, they use code words like equality, fairness, change. Any of this sound familiar? It ought to. Our founding fathers warned us of the tendency of government to gather more power unto itself, and it warned us of our own tendency to trade our liberty for security. Benjamin Franklin once said that any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. Right. As we stand here on these courthouse steps, I am reminded of the sacrifice made by countless men and women in uniform who fought and died for our freedom, and who fought and died so that we may peaceably assemble and protest to redress our grievances. We are protesting against a government that is bloated, wasteful, and bordering on tyrannical. We are protesting against a government that has grown so large, so expensive, and so oppressive that we can no longer afford to remain silent. We have to say, enough is enough. It's time for us to remind the politicians in Washington and in Nashville just who it is they work for. We have to remind them that although we as individuals may not be powerful, as a group, we are very powerful. Without us, they have no power. Without us, they have no tax dollars to spend on their pet projects or with which to reward their cronies. Most importantly, we must remind them that if they continue to insist on the path of more government and less freedom, that they can and will be replaced. Standing on this courthouse lawn with me today are the men and women who make this country work. We are school teachers, farmers, factory workers, soccer moms, cops, firefighters, military veterans, and businessmen. We are the little people who make this country work. We get up every day, we go about our business, and we ask nothing of our government except that it fulfill its constitutional obligation to us. If you go back and reread the preamble to our Constitution, you will find that our federal government is authorized to do 5 things and 5 things only. And you can say them with me if you know them. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Nowhere in that list do I see that they get to play Santa Claus with my tax dollars. Nowhere do I see that they get to take our tax dollars and give them to political activist groups. Nowhere do I see that they get to bail out private companies that are failing because of their own greed and mismanagement. Nowhere do I read that they get to saddle my unborn grandchildren with a mountain of untold debt. It is not government's job to redistribute the wealth. It is not their job to pick winners and losers. It's not their job to decide who gets what. And it's not their job to replace our economic liberty with centralized planning and control. Our president and members of Congress need to be reminded that they were elected to run the government, not the economy. Now, there are those who choose to misinterpret the preamble words, general welfare, into a justification for any imaginable government program. Still others misconstrue the words justice and domestic tranquility into a call for economic homogeny and a cradle-to-grave welfare state. I would remind those folks that true welfare means what is best for us, not what is easy for us. Now, folks, it may be true that Americans are hurting right now. Many of us are out of work or know someone who's out of work, and many of us are working less than we did before, so there's less money to go around. But we also recognize that those who favor bigger government will use our discomfort as an opportunity to grow the size and scope of government. We cannot afford to sacrifice our freedom on the altar of convenience. Our second president, John Adams, once said that a constitution of government once changed from freedom can never be restored. Liberty, once lost, is lost forever. When freedom-loving Americans fall on hard times, we don't look to Washington for answers because we know that more government is not the answer to our problem. We know that in many cases, government is the problem. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are compelled to act. It is time for us to stand up, dust ourselves off, and fight to defend our freedom from government encroachment. It is time that we fight for our freedom before it becomes nothing more than a bedtime story we tell to our grandchildren. We must fight by educating ourselves. We must fight by organizing and making our voices heard in Washington, and we must fight by protesting like we are today. Now, we know that our best days are still ahead of us. We know this because we know what to do when we fall on hard times. Rather than look to politicians to save us, we, as free people, must find our answers by looking to the left, to the right, and in the mirror. Because we know that there's nothing we can't do with our God-given talent, hard work, and ingenuity if we are just left alone to do it. So in times like these, we have to stand up straight, stick out our chin, close ranks around one another, and step boldly into a brighter future. Not because of a stimulus check, not because of a government handout or a government program, but because as free Americans, we always have. Thank you. God bless you.